And welcome. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Makers Demo Day. My name is Alex, and I'm a technical coach here at Makers. We are here today with a bumper demo day to showcase the fantastic projects developed by our 2 November cohorts. Each team is going to present what they've been working on since Monday last week. We'll start with some remote presentations here in the Zoom meeting, and then we'll move on to a Q&A session with Leo and Rachel. We will then round it out with some in-person presentations here in our event space, which will be broadcast on the same Zoom link. Many of you will already know that Makers is a 16-week coding bootcamp. It's an intensive learning experience. And over the course of their time here, many developers going from knowing maybe just some coding basics to being able to build a full stack application from scratch. We believe that anyone can learn to code. Just a few months ago, the developers you're going to see tonight were enjoying their first week here, getting to grips with test driving, pair programming, and using Ruby classes. And now they can build whole projects to create the products they'd like to use. We've had a really lovely time working with the November cohorts, and we've been consistently impressed by their willingness to improve, the challenges that they've taken in their stride, and the support they've offered each other. Both cohorts have made incredible progress over the past 16 weeks. Each week, learners are faced with brand new topics, new challenges, and they have to build up both resilience and a process to break down those challenges and work through them step by step. And you definitely rose to the challenge together. You all set out to learn so many new things over the past 10 days, and it's been really exciting seeing you get to grips with them and with such varied projects. I am so happy for you all, and I hope you're proud of the achievements you've made in the past few months. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce the first team to present this evening, and that is Team Job Buddy from the November cohort.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everybody. We are Team Job Buddy. So without further ado, let's kick off the first presentation of the evening. So introducing Job Buddy. With a myriad of job sites to juggle, opportunities to manage, and an ever-changing list of applications to write and interviews to prepare for, it's easy to get lost in all the noise of the job hunt. In steps, Job Buddy. With our user-friendly job hunting app, we help you stay organized and in control of every step of your job search journey. This is an app we created to help job hunters stay organized when finding their next career move. We built this in 8 working days with a team of 5 you see above, and we used the MERN stack. So let's get into it.
Before we started, we created some project goals. The goals were that everyone on the team contributes. We wanted to create a web application that works. We wanted to implement testing where possible. We want to create a strong process that helps us keep track of what we're doing. And we wanted something that we could continue to build upon even once the 2 weeks is over. But lastly, and most importantly, we wanted to make sure everyone on the team was learning throughout the process. So those were our goals.
During our first team session, we laid out our team values that we could rely on throughout the whole project. We were very keen to create a positive learning environment where we supported a shared learning curriculum. As we mentioned before, we chose MERN stack for our project, and undeniably there were some knowledge gaps to be filled, but with the support for each other, we successfully bridged this. We also wanted to create an environment where honest feedback is not only possible, but it's also welcome and encouraged just to be a better developer. After all, we really just wanted to have fun time while learning and building our final project, something that we could use as job seekers and later on build onto.
We spent time developing the idea and made use of online tools to help us get around the challenge of working remotely. We found it useful to use diagrams to make sure we all had the same idea of what we were aiming for. And we implemented automated testing using Jest and Cypress, which will make it easier to work on our project in the future without breaking the things we've already done.
During our first week, we decided to have just 2 daily stand-ups and keep them pretty short. One in the morning for 15 minutes and one in the evening for up to 25 minutes. During these 2 weeks, we also had 2 retros, one in the end of the first week and one in the end of the second week. We were also focusing a lot on the quality of the code reviews. So when someone wanted to do a merge, was doing a merge request to GitHub, this person had to nominate 2 reviewers and go with them through the code they have written and show how it all works on the front end as well. And everyone in our team had an ownership over an element of the team. So for example, I was doing retro last week, Eva was doing retro this week. Michael was in charge of the Trello board and holding evening stand-ups, and Josh was like a project manager in our team. And I will pass it back to Josh.
So what exactly does Job Buddy look like? Well, let's hop into a demo and see. Firstly here, we have a new user visiting our Job Buddy website for the first time. They're greeted by a simple, stylistic landing page that sets the tone for the style and imagery of our site. When they create an account, they're immediately prompted to log in. When they submit their details, they're taken to the empty dashboard you will see now. So of course, it's time for our users to create their first ticket. On clicking the Add a Job button, our user sees the card creation editor, where they can enter the details of exactly what they want to track for their very first job. And as you will see, once our job user is happy, they will click Add an application, and their application will immediately appear on our dashboard. So what does this look like for a busy job hunter who's got many applications on the go? Well, as the job application progresses, our user can drag cards across the application tracker. The state of each application is dynamically updated and stored in our database. Users can drag their card across the board, or alternatively, manage the status of an application using the status field in our card editor, with set fields to map each phase of an application mapped to a list on our board. All of our text fields are able to be updated by our users. We make sure that when a field is edited, like our user is doing here for the company field, that data is automatically refreshed when they exit a card. You may have noticed our card preview is displaying a deadline tag, and that's dynamically managed within our card editor too, so that as a user progresses through their applications, they have easy access to those important dates that matter for the user at the time. Users can also get rid of those cards that they no longer want to see in their dashboard. We manage that within our card editor. Importantly to us, to avoid any users accidentally deleting a card, we make sure that the user confirms before they delete a card and we remove it from our database. Finally, as you can see, when our user is done for the day, they can securely log out and return back to our login page. So, as we come to the end of the project, what better way to reflect on how we did than to go back to the start and revisit our project goals? Going from an idea to an app in 8 working days brings its fair share of challenges, and our team on this occasion more than rose to it. Throughout the 2 weeks, the team had some knowledge gaps to overcome. I feel like we really pulled together as a team to get each other skilled up, and by us taking the time to learn and help each other, we really ended up getting the benefit of it as we progressed throughout the project. Our final product is something that everyone in the team can look at and say that they made their mark on and be really proud of their contributions. We didn't always get it right, and when the team struggled the most was when we started to stray from our processes. But whenever that happened, the team banded together, took stock, and got us all back on track together. All in all, we can be proud of how this project went and how we've grown as developers over the project. And that's it. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you have any comments, please do paste them in the chat. We'll be in the chat looking out and we'll respond there. And now I'll pass back over to Alex.
All right. Thank you very much, Team Job Buddy. And as Josh just said, if you have any questions for the teams who are presenting in this first portion, please do ask them in the Q&A function down at the bottom of your screen. And the teams should be able to answer those questions there. For now, we are going to move on to our next team of the evening. This is team history from the Blue November cohort. Please, team history, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, so I'll introduce you all to our project, Today in History. Today in History is an app which shows you events which took place on any day throughout the year in past years. The first step of our program was to plan. This was really important to us because we thought that without a solid foundation and framework to work around, we wouldn't be able to get through anything efficiently. So for the whole of the month, the first day on Monday, we spent planning on both Trello and Excalibur by drawing diagrams, mind mapping on the page, and laying out tasks on the Trello board to split up. This helped us achieve our MVP as quickly as possible. And along with the planning, we also met every day in the morning and the afternoon for a quick meeting, and then a retro at the end of the day to go over the work we've done throughout. Now I'll pass over to Natalie.
Yeah, so we decided to make the website with the MERN stack. Our most basic iteration of the website was just to have a single event show up on the web page. We decided to do that so that we could create a database in MongoDB without the pressure of having to have it up within a couple of days. And then our database could take the user's information and store it, and they'd be able to save an event to their profile and come back to it later. And then we tested the code with Jest and Cypress. And now I think we'll have a short demo of the website that we made. So this is the homepage. It automatically loads an event straight away, and you can scroll through and see more events of the same kind on that selected date. There are links to more depth information on the Wikipedia pages, and all of this can be saved to your profile as well. We've got a feature where you can select which date you want to pick. So you can select any day or month of the year, and it will show you events from that day. Again, you can scroll through all of these and find more information about them. We also have a feature where you can filter the pages. So you can pick whether you want to see the births from that day, the deaths from that day, if there are any sort of special holidays that are going on. And again, you can circle back to the events page to see what was going on there. In the nav bar at the top, we put the login and the sign up, so it's easily accessible to everyone who wanted to create an account, which I think we should be seeing now. Yeah, there we go. And I'll pass over to Valerio.
Thank you so much, Nimi. So during this the development of this project, we had some challenges and achievements, as most of you had. And I'm sure that we share most of them with you. So let's go through them. One of them was getting the MVP done on time, since we discovered that we need to request the API and then wait for the code to be delivered to us, and this can take even 2 weeks. But we've been lucky in receiving the code after 2 days, so we could move forward for it. The communication as well as an online project, it was a bit challenging, but we managed to organize everything with the Trello boards and communicating on the Slack, and at the end it was quite, I can say, quite well ended. As well, we had some merging issues, and we by merging and doing posting things on GitHub. But yeah, at the end as well, we managed to overcome also these little challenges. And one of the achievements was, of course, overcoming all these little challenges. All the time that you pass and you make experience in this field, you become more and more confident in yourself and your tools, and that's a very good process that most of them we have been going through now. And what is the best and enjoying what we're doing. I mean, all this training, all these learning things, that's the best part of it. Like, try to stay there and enjoying the training process, enjoying the meeting new people, working with them. And that's been one of the best experience we have had, I'm sure. So thank you very much for your attention, and for any question, we are at your disposition.
All right. Thank you, Team History. Fantastic. Just a quick reminder, any questions you have for the teams, pop them in the Q&A and the teams will hopefully be able to answer them. And stick around on this call. After the presentations, we will have a Q&A with Leo, one of our coaches, and Rachel, who is one of our course sales team. They will be able to answer any questions you have about the course or how to apply. Following that, we will also have more presentations from here in the office, which will be live by those teams. For now, though, we have more exciting teams who are presenting remotely. Team Seedlings, are you ready to present? Seedlings are from the November cohorts.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, we're ready to present. Hello, everyone. We are Team Seedlings. Every great idea started out as a little seed, and this little seed has flourished into our fantastic product that we are delighted to present to you all today. Anthony.
Yeah, we're a team of people who believe in the power of plants and their ability to bring happiness and health to our lives. Our team is comprised of Aziz, Amy, Henry, and myself, Anthony. I'm just going to pass on to Aziz, who's going to go into the problem statement that we try to address.
All right, thanks, Anthony. So at Seedlings, we like to think that there's a budding plant owner in each and every one of us. And whether you're an enthusiast, struggling to find the time to research your plant's specific care needs, or a newbie embarking on a lifelong plant ownership journey, we want our app to be your go-to place for info on looking after your plant. So at the heart of our app is a database of plants and their care information, all behind an interactive user interface. And it incorporates features such as a personalized virtual garden to easily access the specific plants you own, and a reminder feature to ensure your plants are always properly hydrated. But to demonstrate that properly, I'm going to hand it over to Amy, who's going to walk through our app.
Hi, so I'm going to talk you through our app. So our app is called Seedlings, and here we have our main homepage, which is comprised of a feed full of different plants. And here we have a user scrolling down and checking out all of the plants on the feed. You can also see at the top, we have a carousel that is changing around to our mission statement as Seedlings. So users are able to add plants to their garden and also search for specific plants. So here's a demonstration of the user searching for plants. So searching for a tree now. And this is also sort of in uppercase or lowercase searching. And it doesn't matter whether it's sort of the plant name or sort of the other names that the plant's known by. Once they've found the plant they're looking for, they can go on the specific page, look at information about that plant. And now we're heading to the garden. So this is this user's garden. And here's where they can sort of manage all the plants that they own. So they can remove plants. One of our key features is around setting reminders to water our plants. So this can be once a day, twice a day, or every minute. We're just going to demonstrate every minute for now. And this is going to pop up really quickly and we can show you after this demonstration. So yeah, the user's now back on the feed page, adding plants to their garden, clicking and learning more about plants, the temperature, the conditions, the habitat. We also integrated AI functionality into this. And this searches sort of a database of millions of pictures and thousands of species. So a user can upload a photo and the smart AI can match it to the plant that it thinks that it is. So the user's now searching around, looking to see which is the best match. I think the one at the top is the best match for that plant. And there's also the ability for that user to click on sort of further information for each of those plants. So the users are also able to update their details, change their details, and we also have sort of verification behind that, and sort of logging in and logging out features. As I mentioned, we just also wanted to, sorry about that. We also just wanted to touch upon the reminder feature that we mentioned. So in the demonstration, the user set reminders up for every minute, and obviously you'd probably overwater your plants and kill them if you did that every minute. But just shows the core functionality of our app, which can give sort of specialized reminders to users based on the plants in their garden. I'm going to hand over to Aziz, who's going to cover our objectives and our tech stack for the project.
Thanks, Amy. So our primary objective was to learn and have fun whilst doing so, which is the Maker's Way. And it was obviously impressed on us that if you enjoy what you're doing, then it's going to be a lot more sustainable. We also wanted to solidify good working practices, such as the agile mindsets, effective stand-ups and retros, and making sure that we communicated well as a team. And so in order to do that, we used what we had learned from previous projects, things such as using a Trello board and coordinating our efforts in sprints. This project was slightly different to the other projects we had done, where we were given a set starting point, and here we were starting from scratch. So we used the MERN stack that we had used previously, and that allowed us to be familiar with the tech stack, but also explore different techniques for both styling and features. So it kept pushing our learning. We started with a basic MVP of a homepage, which displayed all the plants in our database with the option to click on an individual plant for further details. And then we incorporated the 3 APIs, SendGrid for email sending, LoadCron for task scheduling, and PlantNet API for uploading plants and identifying them. And I'm going to hand it back to Amy to walk through some reflections and challenges that we faced.
Thank you. We feel like we have a better understanding using the MERN stack as a result of this project, and we managed to incorporate API calls from different sources into our app. And it gave us sort of better experience delivering to a tight deadline. But no group is obviously without challenges, and we obviously had our own. One of these being that we went back and forth over whether to use an API or our own database for the list of plants on the main page. And we decided to create our own database because the existing APIs were very scientific and it didn't feel very user-friendly, and we wanted it to be very user-friendly for our website. One of our challenges as well was trying to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, but also stay within achievable goals for the project. So one of our original ideas was to have a plant sitting app, but this felt like a combination of similar projects that we had already done. So it was all about balancing what we could do as well as pushing ourselves to achieve something great in the time that we were given. I'm also just going to touch upon sort of our reflections after completing the project. So we understood it was really essential to streamline our priorities to help us achieve our MVP. We were also quite a small group. So in order to have everything that we wanted, we needed to make sure that we had a solid foundation, that our MVP was great, and then we could add more features on top of that. It can be really easy to fall into the trap of adding new features when the key is to just take it one step at a time and integrate them one at a time. And just finally, whilst we felt we had a good understanding of certain features from previous projects, we recognized that we had to adapt them to the needs of this project. And that kind of proves what we've been taught at Makers, that you're always going to be learning on the go. You're always going to have to adapt what you're working with to make it relevant to your current working goals. And thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we'd be delighted to answer them in the chat.
All right, thank you.
Whoops, sorry, I'm muted. Thank you, Team Seedlings. So You've seen 3 fantastic teams so far. You've got 2 fantastic teams coming up. I'm going to give you another very quick reminder. This demo day is in 3 parts. We are currently in remote presentations. There will be a Q&A where you can ask questions about the course in general or about how to apply to a couple of our experts from the team. And then at the end, you will have, on this same Zoom call at 6:15, you will have in-person presentations. So you have heard from Job Buddy, you have heard from History, you have heard from Seedlings. It is time for us to move on to Team Dodo from the November cohort.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everyone. My name is Cecily, and I'm 1/5 of Team Dodo, along with my team members, Mike, Nyla, Tony, and JC. So Dodo is an information resource app with educational and conservation purposes. It is an interactive world map that when you click on a country or a continent, it will let you know the endangered species that are living there. So I'm just going to pass on to Naila, who's going to give you just a sort of debrief on how we worked as a team.
So we first started by creating our team charter, and we were very keen to foster an environment where everyone feels safe and comfortable to express themselves. The charter encouraged openness, empathy, continuous learning, and most importantly, having fun during the whole process. We also had daily check-ins through stand-ups and rituals, and depending on our needs, it could be as much as 4 times in a day. We also saw the need of taking regular breaks. We used Trello to create tickets, and we tailored these to make them easily achievable for us to be able to complete our task in the easiest way possible. On to Cecilia for the next part of our presentation.
Thank you. So I'm just going to touch base on the technologies that we used and the frameworks. So I think going into this, we wanted to create a really amazing looking app, but we weren't quite aware how front end heavy it would be, to the extent where we were sort of kind of trying to minimize the amount of backend that we used. We really only wanted an API client class that would make a call to an external API. So going into it, we built the map on React using a program called React Simple Maps, which uses a topper.json file and basically sort of plans out the map on your screen. Anthony will go into some of the difficulties we had with the API later, but we had to integrate Sinatra as well into our app, which made calls to some JSON files that we built out as a database for some of the information that you'll see in the demo. And then, of course, RSpec and Jest as well for testing. So Mike will just take over and give you a demo.
Thank you, Cecily. So the process, a lot of learning because we had to go back to scratch essentially, and we hadn't really covered the front end side of things. So yeah, we did a lot of tutorials, a lot of referencing online. Pair programming was really important, occasionally in larger groups, and there was a fair amount of individual time, I would say, as well, particularly for the styling. We tried to implement tests as often as we possibly could. And then we came together regularly for Git merges on GitHub, which actually became smoother and smoother the more we did it. Yeah, that was a learning experience. The features we wanted were a zoomable map, continent selection, country selection, and we thought it would be nice to have some kind of breaking news feature. And we've got a lovely little cute dodo cursor. So just to take you through, this is what Dodo looks like. As you can see, it's a very clean, simple kind of layout. We wanted to keep it as clean as possible. There's the dodo flying around the world. The map is fully zoomable, scalable, which was obviously one of the big challenges for us. It zooms in the correct places, is anchored correctly. If you go into the continent and choose one, that will return the 10 most endangered species in that region. This was created collating lots of information in our Sinatra database. And then you can actually switch to countries if you want to drill a bit deeper and just get a bit more information. So you can select the type of thing you'd like to look at, what kind of criteria you'd like, whether it's endangered, vulnerable. This is pulling information from the API, and it was a really dense API with a lot of information. As you can see, the occasional API call takes a little bit longer, so we just put a little loading animation there, just so everybody was aware that the screen hadn't frozen. And there's an example of that with, I believe, Indonesia in a second, which is one of the heavier ones. And as you can see, that really did take a long time. The API is just so much information as we filter through it. And then if nothing is returned, you'll see that it just brings back no species match your criteria, and you can move on to something else. Onto the breaking news. We pulled that from another API. Set the filters to environment, climate change, and endangered animals, because we felt that those were all kind of related topics, and we felt that was a sensible thing to do. They're all clickable links, and they will take you outside our website, which is an important thing, obviously. And there we go, back to the beginning. You'll now see the dodo flying away happily off into the corner. And I'm going to hand over to Tony to talk about challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I think we all found this kind of challenging. I mean, first and foremost, that our initial inception, one of the words of the idea was a little off-piste and not quite the same as the makers' challenges so far. So we had to go back and learn a lot of things. I mean, as much as the modern developer is pretty much just a Googler, I think makers did give us the framework to be able to kind of self-learn. The API was an issue kicking off because the token didn't arrive on time. I'm sure that many other groups that used APIs found that they're not particularly conscientious on getting those out, but that did mean that we had to kind of think on the fly and change our initial idea. But luckily it did arrive with enough time to kind of merge our two new ideas together, giving us the, I would say, pleasant functionality of having to switch between continents and countries. I quite like that. And again, kind of sticking to the map as the real cornerstone, we had to drill into that in the first few days and make that our MVP, which doesn't stand for most vertical primate. That's minimum viable product. And I will hand off for the see-off.
So reflections. First thing we have to say is that we're incredibly proud of what we've done. The short turnaround time, the relatively unknown technology, very, very proud indeed. We acknowledge that testing should probably have been implemented a bit more thoroughly, but it's, yeah, when you're in the thick of it, it's quite hard. And sometimes you can lose sight of that, but we got back on track. For me, the camaraderie and communication of just being involved in the team was amazing, completely made the whole experience. And it's nice that we can return to this project after the course is finished and hopefully implement some of the things that we wanted to. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, again, put them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to answer. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Team Dodo. And Tony, I am totally stealing most vertical primate. That is it. We have one more team before we move on to our Q&A session. So I am extremely proud to present the bakery manager team. I think one of you has had a question in the Q&A about building an e-commerce site. I think your question is about to be answered. So, bakery manager, are you ready? I will leave it in your capable hands.
Hi, everyone. So our group was tasked with creating something in the food category, and we came up with a bakery manager. I'm going to start off by introducing you to the inspiration for what we came up with. So back in 2017, my husband and I started a vegan bakery in Arizona just as a side hustle, and it's grown and grown. We started off baking in our apartment and ended up now we bake in a commercial kitchen and we have employees baking for us. And as our business has grown, I started noticing that a large amount of our time was being taken up by tasks I felt could be made more efficient. My idea was to create an app that would be able to collect orders from our wholesale partners, generate baking and packaging lists from that information, rather than using a pen and paper, which can, create lots of mistakes, and also send invoices to our customers. So now I'll pass you over to Abby, who's going to demo what we came up with.
Give us just 1 second. I can 1 second. So this is our website, Bakery Manager. To start off with, we're going to log in as an admin, which is a baker, where you can see the bakery index, and the first thing we're going to show you is how to add an item. So if we go up there and press add item, you can begin to start filling out these forms, basically telling the customer and yourself what is the item, how much does it cost the customer to purchase, how much does it cost us to bake, what goes into making it, and then how many do you get per batch. Finally, you need to choose the right picture to show your stock on your website. Pressing add, it becomes part of our stock inventory. Some of our items here though have some suspicious ingredients, so let's click edit and get rid of those. It's not shown in this video, but you do have the option to delete items if you're no longer selling them. So if you click the delete button, that's how you do it. Let's go back to the dashboard and have a sneak peek at upcoming orders. We've just got one coming in, so let's go and show you how it works for the user. So if we sign up, we then have a load of other forms to fill out. So what is the company name? What is the type of business it is? Is it a cafe? Where is your business? How do we contact you by phone or email address? And finally, you need to set a password so that you can continue to log in, purchase more things, and access a profile. So let's go and log in to this new account. We can see all the stock, including one of the new ones that we added just before once I scroll down. So we're going a bit crazy here, adding loads and loads to the basket. And then we go a bit too crazy here. We scroll up and realize, oh no, we've added 4. We don't want 4. Let's quickly change that to 3, scroll back up. Yep, now it's 3, perfect. This is the order form, where you get a summary of your order and then you get to choose the day you want it to be delivered. Let's be gracious and give them a week. So you send that over and you get an order invoice. Now let's revisit our bakery index. So we're going to log in as an admin again and just check it's all there, which it is. So that has been Bakery Manager. I hope you guys have enjoyed and look forward to the presentation.
Okay, so how did we solve this problem? The first thing we had to do was decide which technologies we were going to use. And we, as many other groups did, decided to use the MERN stack. So we started off by just all joining on a whiteboard and kind of jotting down what the features needed to be. So these ended up being the login and the sign up, the add items, items display, the basket, the order form, the confirmation, and the dashboard. So when we were mapping out all these features, we started to realize that we needed a database with various collections, which were the users, the baskets, the batches ordered, and the items. And during this planning phase, we kind of figured out that there were these different parts that needed working on. So we split into different teams and paired off and implemented these features separately and then merged them in together later. So now Michael's going to talk to you about some high-level decisions.
So there are quite a lot of features in our application which required a lot of high-level decisions. So for example, one of our features required storing pictures somewhere online. So we had to decide which service to use to store those pictures, how best to reference those, how to organize that data in a database and keep the site in sync with the database. So the challenge was that all that higher level stuff requires a really significant amount of thought and consideration and research, and it was often more complex than actually coding the features out. So we found that often the code all falls into place when things are properly organized on a higher level. We tried our best to stay on top of that level of organization throughout our retros and stand-ups, which generally worked really well. And we made a lot of use of online whiteboarding tools, as you saw, and Trello. And some of that organization kind of dropped off towards the end with the deadline looming, but we managed to pull it together in the end, just through hard work and communication, basically.
So yeah, there's several challenges for our team, and I'm going to talk about two user type. As a managed system, so we need to have two user type, is the admin side and then the customer side. So how we do that is we define the user type on the back end, and then we create different path for the user type, and so that we can separate them to different path to go through for the front end. So yeah, that's about the challenge.
The future possibilities for the app include an inventory management system and payment system that will, if implemented, can greatly enhance the efficiency of the business. The inventory management system will provide real-time visibility into product levels and make it easy to track and manage inventory, while the payment system will streamline transactions and support multiple payment options with robust security measures. This project is made possible by the blood, sweat, and tears of the following developers and makers: Michael, Harry, Abby, Natalie, Daisy, and yours truly. That's it for Bakery Manager. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A below. I'll pass the floor back to our awesome host, Alex.
All right. Thank you so much, Team Bakery Manager. And I hope there wasn't too much blood going into the baking. Let's move on in just a moment to our Q&A session, which will be hosted by Leo and Rachel. But before we do that, let's say thank you one more time to all of our awesome teams so far. And once again, I'll remind you, we have more teams yet to come after this break for a Q&A. So, devs who have presented, thank you so much for joining. You are welcome to drop off the call now or stick around, but stay muted and keep your cameras off in order to watch your cohortees, your co-makers, as they present their projects in person here in the office. For now though, Leo, if you're ready, I will hand the reins over to you.
Hey, thanks Alex and every team for these amazing presentations. I'm joined this evening by Rachel for the Q&A. Hi Rachel, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks Leo. Yeah, excited to sort of answer any questions that anybody has about the course. So yeah, ready to go. Cool. So if anybody does have any questions about the course, feel free to either put them in the chat or sort of, yeah, come off mute and ask the question directly. But I work closely with the admissions team, so I should be able to tell you about what it's like to join Makers, what the process is to apply and join us. I can talk about the next cohorts that we have available. So yeah, open to any questions. Otherwise, me and Leo can make some questions up and we can start with those. But yeah, we'd love to hear questions from anybody on the call that's thinking about doing Makers or is just generally interested to just know a little bit more about what we're doing.
Looks like there's two questions about the team. Do you want me to answer these, Rachel?
Yeah, if you're happy, go ahead.
Yeah, so Jerome asked, how long have the teams been on the course? So the team have been sort of together on this project for the past 2 weeks. But when it comes to the cohort as a whole, they've been sort of working together as a group, as a cohort for the past 12 weeks, and before for 4 weeks in the pre-course. So they've been working together in different settings, in different projects and different group sizes. But for these teams, it's been 2 weeks. How are the team size decided for this project? So for the final engineering projects that you've just seen tonight, students submit their preferences regarding the kind of project that they want to work on and potential tech stacks that they want to work on as well. And we sort of make the teams depending on that. We aim to have teams of between 4 to 6 people usually, to balance sort of everyone's wishes.
Amazing. I think a couple more have come through that I'll have a look at. So Sarah's asked, please can we talk about the next cohorts that are available at Makers? So yeah, definitely. So we have an academy cohort, just like these lovely developers are just graduating from. So the next one of those starts on the 13th of March, and that would be the pre-course, which is what Leo briefly talked about, like 4 weeks prep work, which then leads into the 12-week course. And then the next date after that is going to be the 9th of May. So we normally only open the next couple of cohorts, so that, yeah, we're not having people apply too far in the future. But if you do have something like a long notice period, you can always apply to one of the 2 cohorts that I've just mentioned and just mention in your application that you're interested in potentially later in the year. So yeah, those are the next 2 cohorts, the 13th of March and the 9th of May. And then somebody's asked, what is the holistic plan now moving forward with the current cohort who have just finished? Leo, I don't know whether you know about some post-course support that happens. I think that's what they're talking about.
Yes. So is that, sorry, I was distracted by something. Is that the one about the holistic plan moving forward? Yeah. So now that this cohort graduated, they're going to sort of be in the safe hands of the careers coaches for the job hunting journey. So they're going to have some workshops about how to kickstart the job hunt, how to make like a really good CV for employers, a cover letter, how to search for jobs, what to look out for when it comes to sort of reading a job description from a tech or software engineer position, and how to sort of apply generally, and how to keep working on your portfolio and on your skills, even though the course is finished and even if you don't have this sort of like structure anymore, and how to sort of like keep doing these steps to improve your learning and to maybe keep working together. So there's this, and then students also have access to a few resources like reviews where they can work on a piece of code and a challenge while being observed by a reviewer, and they're given feedback at the end on how to improve their process and their skills as well. So there's like a range of different things that are available to them. And whenever they have a job interview coming and they apply for a job, they also have support specifically on this job interview, how to best prepare for it, what to expect on this, how to best prepare them technically, but also in their interviewing and communication skills when it comes to doing that interview.
Amazing, thanks, Leo. So yeah, lots of support once they finish the course on the next part of their journey. So yeah, Jerome, they were their end of course projects. So what they've been working on in the last 2 weeks of the 12-week full-time course. Leo, I don't know whether you can help with this one. Emilio's asked which software is used the most by teams for final projects and why? Yeah, and I think there was a little bit more, but it keeps moving. Which software is good to know before the course?
So by these teams for final projects, so okay, so there's 2 questions in one. So it tends to be there tends to be some trends, like I think 1 or 2 years ago, a lot of teams was using Ruby on Rails, and now teams tend to use a more JavaScript based technical stack, including React, because it's quite popular in the industry when it comes to web development. That says there's nothing preventing teams from using a different tech stack, like, you know, Python or Ruby or any other language, depending on what they want to build. I think there's a bit of an effect where, you know, current students will look at the presentation from the previous cohort, and then they would, you know, think that this tech stack might be good for their project as well. But then it also depends on like popularity and trends as well. And also because we cover quite a lot of JavaScript around the end of the course, it's sort of like a natural progression for them to use JavaScript for their final projects. But again, some people often like to sort of step out of this and learn a different language or a different tech stack as part of the final project. And in that case, we're totally happy to support them doing that. For the second question, which is which software is good to know before the course, in addition to learn basics of Ruby and JavaScript? You actually only don't need to know the basics of Ruby. So I think we're still doing the Code Academy course and some Code Wars scalas. You don't necessarily need to know JavaScript as well. Obviously, any sort of like bits of experience you can gain in programming, no matter how little it is totally fine. But then there's no sort of prerequisites of the course because it's designed to be accessible to totally beginners. So even if you never touched like, never typed a line of code before, never touched like the terminal or anything like this, so you wouldn't need to know it. But then obviously any sort of pre-training that you want to do is good as well.
Yeah, perfect, amazing. So Halden's just asked a bit, yeah, what is it like? What is the application project like? So yeah, you don't do a project, but there is some Ruby work that we ask you to do as part of the application process. So you can go onto a website called Code Academy, and they have different tutorials and different courses that you can go through, and we ask people to complete the Learn Ruby one. Just because it is a language that we use on the course, it's important that you're sort of familiar with it before you join us. So we ask you to go on there, and we also ask you to look at something called Code Wars, which is a place where you can practice your skills that you've just learned from Code Academy. So yeah, anybody that's new to coding, go and have a look. You don't need to sign up to their pro subscription or anything like that. You can do your first course on there for free. So I suggest doing that. The application process can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to 4 or 5 weeks. It depends how much time you have to give to the application, but the Code Academy and Code Wars will probably take you around sort of 20 to 30 hours. So it's not something you can just do in a day. It is sort of over a couple of weeks it will take you. At the moment, Halden, we have the 13th of March as a cohort and the 9th of May. We don't have them starting every month this year. We do have them a bit more sporadic. So if you are interested in later in the year, feel free to drop us an email, we'll get back to you. But yeah, at the moment, we just have those two open for applications. Someone else has asked, Mills has asked, what IT experience do people need before joining? Hopefully this has sort of been covered, so you don't need any sort of previous exposure to IT, to software development. Obviously an interest in it is going to be useful, and to have tried a bit of coding to make sure it is something that you want to commit to is all we sort of ask from our learners before they join. I don't know if you have anything to add, Leo.
I'm just going to add that while it's not required, it's true that some people do have some IT experience, because sometimes people have worked in, IT or more like hardware IT, or maybe they've done some project management and also software testing, or maybe they've touched software from like very far without actually working on software, and they kind of want to take the jump and go to the other side, if that makes sense. So it really depends, but again, it's not required to have any previous experience in any field of IT.
Amazing. Yeah, we have learners that join us from all different backgrounds. So yeah, don't be scared if you don't come from anything that's related at all. It's absolutely fine. Salim is wondering when the deadline is for the March cohort. So we don't specifically put deadlines on applications. We do have people applying up until it's sort of filled, but there is only sort of 4 weeks to go. So I would say if you're interested in the March cohort, you should be either working through your application now or putting in your application pretty soon, so that we can help you through the process. Just because those resources I just talked about can take a couple of weeks to work through. So yeah, here and now is the time to apply for March if you're interested. And we're here to help you through the process. All of the spaces, I guess, do go on a first come, first served basis. So just bear that in mind, even though you might apply. Unfortunately, if you only complete all the resources in the application process too close to the start date, you might have to wait for the next start date. So yeah, just as soon as you can get everything in, if you are interested in March, would be my advice for that. And then Amelia's asked, in your PDF, it is suggested for a link in Ruby, which does not work. So the website does not exist anymore. Oh dear. Is there a new link which you can provide? Also, the text editor you are using, I think is Atom, is no longer supported. Perfect, Amelia, I'll take it back to the team. If you could let me know in a message what PDF it is, so I can have a look at that and take that back. But thanks for letting us know, and I'll try and get you something else sent out.
When it comes to installing Ruby, you can follow the guidance on the Ruby's website, which should be up to date. When it comes to using an editor, we now recommend VS Code, I think. I didn't know that Atom wasn't supported anymore, but we do recommend using VS Code, so you can probably use that one. It's quite up to date and should work smoothly on your machine.
Thanks, Leo. Okay, Celine has asked, given the constant development of the software engineering industry, how often do you update your courses to stay relevant? Oh, it's a perfect question for you, Leo.
Yeah, it's true that there's a constant development. Through the first few weeks are sort of like fundamentals, and they use Ruby as a language, but the language is more like a vehicle or support for sort of training you to use those fundamental practices, such as test-driven development or code design or debugging, with the aim of you being able to transfer these practices and this knowledge to other languages. And half the course you will learn JavaScript, where you will sort of compare and contrast with a new language as well. We do also sort of look at the trends and what's being sort of asked in interviews, or what are the technologies that come often in interviews. I think a lot of our graduates tend to go to sort of like web software engineering, but then we also try to incorporate more different things in there and to update the curriculum quite often to reflect those changes and those trends. So a bit of an answer to say is that there's a part of it that keeps being relevant because it covers higher level things that don't change that much or haven't changed that much in a lot of years, but some bits of it which are still like moving as the industry is moving as well.
Thanks, Leo. Perfect. So Verity's asked a bit about what the hybrid course involves, like how much of the course takes place in person and how much is done remotely. So I can answer this one. So Verity, there are so the pre-course, the first 4 weeks is always done remotely, and you do that sort of wherever you want. It's self-led sort of independent work. And then from the full-time start, we would suggest the following weeks. So the first week of the full-time course, and then weeks 5, 8, 9, 11, and 12 of your full-time course as weeks to come in. Obviously, the first week is where you get to meet your cohort, and then the other weeks are sort of project-based weeks. So that's why, again, we would suggest coming in person. And then the other weeks, you could choose to do from home, or you could also choose to come into the office. So that's what the hybrid looks like. We have some suggested weeks that we think would make your experience really good, and then weeks that you can also do from home. Hopefully that answers that question. Amelia's asking, do we provide job hunting support for the course, which is sponsored by the DfE, and what are the differences in support after the course? So yeah, we do support our DfE learners after the course. You just work with a different journey success coach after the course. So we have somebody specifically for Skills Bootcamp DfE graduates. So you'll have access to an initial one-to-one and then some more group-based workshops once you finish the course, but you'll still get access to things like Leo suggested, like interview support. So if you have an interview, you can send out an alert and you can get sort of technical support. So there are some differences, Amelia, from our paid academy students to our DfE, but yeah, you will still be supported at the end of the course. So Celine's got a question. I read that you help with job opportunities through partners. What percentage of your cohort would you say gets hired from your partner network? Celine, I don't work in the partnerships team, so I don't have a number off the top of my head. I do know that we do bring partners for our graduates to apply to their jobs once they finish the course. So we host a careers fair once a quarter for graduates to come along to, and that's where we would have our partners come and talk. And we also have them host lunchtime talks. So if they're not around the time of a careers fair, they will just come and present to our job hunters during a lunchtime, and then they can apply for the roles. But yeah, it is a time for you to also sort of explore companies that you might want to work for at the end of the course. You shouldn't rely just on makers partnerships. Obviously, it's a great resource to have, but you should also just be looking what's out on the market and looking for companies or industries that you're interested in. And hopefully through a combination of the two, you'll sort of make it into your first role after the course. Jerome has a more technical one, seems to be mainly web and scripting languages. What about other languages, C++, Java, etc.?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. So we don't really cover these on the sort of academy bootcamp. However, if I can talk a bit about the apprenticeships routes, this tends to be more tailored to different languages, as it will depend on your employer as an apprentice, your employer's tech stack. So you might do some of these other languages like Java or Python, or I don't know for C++, but that could be potentially there as well, because the apprenticeship course is more usually like tailored compared to the academy one. So I don't know if Rachel, you want to add to this, but
I don't know whether we want to talk a bit about sort of the way we teach. So we're teaching people to learn rather than so they can then apply these sort of principles to other languages. So if you do see a job in Java at the end of the course, you'd have like the skills to learn that and pick that up.
Yeah, that's also true, that essentially we're also trying to really make you sort of like not only teach you specific languages, but also teach you how to teach yourself later if you need to jump to a different tech stack because of the company you're going to work in or because of the project you're going to work in. You're able to sort of guide and drive your learning into learning those different languages. And so that's also why we're like trying to teach those high-level concepts and skills and behavior rather than specific, so you can then apply those high-level things into learning more specific things depending on what you need to do. Languages and frameworks are like tools, so you need to pick the right one for the right job. But if you know how to go ahead and learn a new tool and learn how to use it, then it's quite powerful, because then you can sort of learn anything whenever you need to. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. Amelia's asked about the introduction to CS50 videos before doing the course, or is it better to do more katas and learn the basics? I know the CS50 course is quite extensive and can take quite a long time to complete. I don't know, Leo, if you have any experience of the course yourself.
Yeah, it's quite long, and it covers quite interesting but very theoretical about computer science and how computers work and how algorithms work and everything, which is really good if you're really interested into that, as I am to some extent. But if you want really to go for the sort of like efficient and focused, probably focus on doing katas and learning the language and learning how to build stuff, which is more the approach that we have obviously at the bootcamp. But then you can also going through the CS50 videos and you find them interesting and exciting to learn about these things, but you don't have to, and it's not a prerequisite to the course as well.
Thanks. All right. I think Florin is referring to the final projects. How long is the MPV given to be built? I saw a lot of local host presentations. How about deployment to check all the DB and security is good?
Yeah, so usually we don't like sort of like give deployment as a requirement. So it depends on how far the teams goes. If they can like deploy their project, it's good, but doesn't, like sometimes they would like to focus more on like the features and really the learning and really doing like high quality code and these kind of things rather than going through deployment, as they have quite limited time. So it really depends on the project and how many features that they want to build. But usually we give like a guided like deadline of maybe around 3 days, 2-3 days for the first MVP, and then it depends. It's not like a hard deadline, but something to kind of guide the teams to what to aim for and to really focus on the essential and then iterate from there.
Great, thanks, Leo. Amelia, I don't know whether you're asking for book recommendations, but yeah, there is a book called Learn Ruby the Hard Way by Z.A. Shaw, I believe, that we do suggest. And then I think later on, Leo, I don't know whether you have any apps that you'd recommend that are good for sort of like learning on the go.
I don't know for apps. I know that the trial Ruby website, if it still is the same as the one I know, was quite good. Otherwise, if you're more into books, those ones are quite good. The pragmatic programmer, which I'm going to type here, is quite good as well. And I think there's another one. I can't remember the name, but yeah, there's definitely a few good books about Ruby, or you can, try stuff for yourself and build stuff, and it's usually the best way to learn.
Nice. Yeah, I think, yeah, or having a little mini project to work on, if you've done Code Academy, it's always useful to, even if it's just building something really, really small, trying to put what you've learned into practice is always going to be good. Someone's asked, how does the apprenticeship work? So I don't believe at the moment we have any apprenticeships live for sort of applications. They're not as regular as our academy boot camps. The apprenticeship is a slightly longer way to retrain, I guess, through Makers. What happens is you will apply to an apprenticeship, you'll interview with Makers, but you will ultimately also interview with the employer who is going to sort of sponsor your apprenticeship. So the application process can take longer, and you obviously have to be offered the space by the company themselves. Like Makers doesn't make the decision on who gets to go onto an apprenticeship. And apprenticeships can last between, I think, 12 to 18 months to complete the whole thing, because you are working towards a level 4 qualification. So yeah, there are some differences. You should be able to sort of see some of those differences on the website. But yeah, I think I could talk a long time about apprenticeships. So yeah, definitely worth having a look on the website about our apprenticeships. But yeah, unfortunately at the moment, I don't think there are any live applications. But yeah, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into the apprenticeships. Someone's asked that they're in a full-time job and they can't afford to leave until they find another one, but they're extremely keen to sort of get into this industry. Is there any advice? Yeah, I think the advice would be, if you haven't sort of started coding or done any coding, like, give it a try. You need to make sure, like you've said before you leave a job, that it is something that you want to do. So I would explore coding. There are loads of coding meetups. I'm sure still some run remotely and then more in person now. So yeah, joining a coding community, coming along to one of these events like you have done to find out more about it. But yeah, I think immerse yourself in the industry, try some coding. And yeah, if you're interested, obviously there is something like Makers to sort of help you retrain. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's just sort of giving it a try, really, would be my advice. Leo, I don't know whether you have anything else to add.
No, I think you summed it quite well, so nothing to add on my side.
Cool. So someone has, some experience with JavaScript. Would it be better to do some Code Wars exercises in JavaScript rather than Ruby? I can probably answer this one, because I guess for the application process, obviously knowing JavaScript will be useful, but you will have to do the Ruby Code Academy. So then I would suggest practicing some katas in Ruby, because Code Academy is like quite basic. It will give you some good fundamentals to work from, but it's then when you're in Code Wars that you're going to get the chance to come across problems. You'll have a look at your problem solving. You'll need to use Google. You'll need to use extra resources. So I think in order to prepare for our technical assessment that we do as part of the application process, it's going to be a Ruby based one. So the JavaScript is going to help, but I think you will need to have a look at Ruby on Code Wars as well.
Yeah, thanks. That's sort of what I was about to say as well.
Cool. So are there different pathways within the course? Can students choose to learn more about a specific subject? Leo.
So on the Academy Bootcamp, the sort of like part that is more free is around the final project, which was presentation you've just seen, where they can select the tech stack they want to work with. So in that case, they would guide their own learning into that specific tech stack with support from the coaches. But then when it comes after the course, and obviously you're free to focus on whatever you want. But usually most of the Academy Bootcamp and of that curriculum is sort of like fixed, and then from there you can choose to learn the thing that you want.
Great. Leo, I don't know whether, is there a cutoff time that we need to stop, because the questions are still going, but I just wonder how long we have.
It's in 5 minutes. Yeah, okay. So we still have 5 minutes to answer a few questions.
Okay, great. So I'll keep going. I've lost my place on where the next question is now. So someone is interested, Sarah's asked, are we noticing less job openings for new developers as there has been a lot of tech layoffs? I think that we're still hosting a careers fair next week, so we still have employers sort of engaging with makers, which is good. Lots of our employers are sort of return employers. They've hired makers in the past and they've been really happy with the quality of developers that they've got. So yeah, we have like a big network that we've worked with in the last, I think it's 10 years this year, Leo, that we've been working. So yeah, we have built up like some good relationships. So yeah, we're not feeling it too much, but I'm sure there might be some changes throughout this year with sort of different things going on in the economy. But yeah, I can't really say too much more on that at the moment, Sarah. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Amelia's interested if there's any differences between the DFE funded course compared to the paid bootcamp. Does the paid bootcamp have anything extra which is more beneficial to the students? So Amelia, the DFE funded course is remote, so our learners all learn remotely, whereas our paid students do have the opportunity to come and work from our offices and collaborate with the coaches and people. The support after the course is slightly different. You have a dedicated sort of DFE journey success coach that helps you once you finish the course. The course itself, I believe that the sort of specification of what is taught is the same. But yeah, I think some of the experiences, if you can come on site, will be slightly different to sort of doing the course remotely. But we do have a lot of experience running the course remotely now because of COVID. So yeah, I think there are a few differences between the courses, but I think they're both great options. Obviously, unfortunately, not everyone is eligible for the DFE funded spaces. So yeah, it's worth having a look on the website whether you're eligible, because it's not a route for everyone. It is a way for us to help people that ordinarily wouldn't be able to sort of get into tech. So definitely worth having a look at the criteria for that, Amelia. Then someone's asked for apprenticeships. Is it that makers bootcamp students are given preference over the ones who are applying just for the apprenticeship? I'm not too sure I understand the question. Leo, I don't know whether
I guess the question might be around whether we do give preferences to applications for people applying for the bootcamp rather than for apprenticeships, but I do believe that those are two separate things. Completely correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, they're two separate things. So I guess the two different routes are suited to two different types of people. I would say the bootcamp is for somebody that wants to retrain like the quickest, because you can do the bootcamp in 16 weeks, and then you have a plethora, hopefully, of different jobs in industries that you can look at, whereas an apprenticeship is, you know, guided learning. You're still working towards a level 4 apprenticeship, so there are sort of I don't know what to call it, there's paperwork and there's exams and there's work that you have to do whilst you're on the apprenticeship. So you do 12 weeks with makers, and then you go and do your apprenticeship with an employer. So you're essentially a junior developer for a certain number of months whilst working on a portfolio. So yeah, there are two different types of people, I think, that would want to do the two different routes. Apprenticeship can take 12 to 18 months to complete. The boot camp can be completed in 16 weeks. So you could be in a new job within sort of 4 to 6 months of thinking about doing makers. But yeah, do ask another question if we've not hit the spot on that one. But yeah, we've got about a minute left. So
I believe I've been told that we sort of need to hand over the next presentations now. So
fine. So we do have a Q&A every Tuesday. from 12 till 12:30. So have a look on Eventbrite. I'm sure we'll probably do a follow-up email and we'll put a link in. So we do a Q&A every week. So you can come and ask these extra questions and more questions if you have them. There'll be somebody to answer things like this every week. All right.
All right, let's give place to the next round of presentations then. Lovely to answer all your questions, and have a nice evening, everyone.
We're now going to have the in-person presentations. So for those of you online, you should be able to hear us, hopefully, and see us through the cameras, and we will share our screen. For the rest of you, you'll see the presentations up here, and of course, the presenters will be right here as well. We have 3 groups presenting today from 2 different cohorts. This truly is a bumper demo day. We have so much happening today, and it's fantastic. So the cohorts who will be presenting are Blue November and November. They've done a lot in the last 16, 17, 18 weeks. They started from maybe able to write a couple of lines of code, and they've gone from there to building from scratch, from really nothing, the apps you're about to see today. That's a huge achievement. It's really worth celebrating. It's worth celebrating the learning, and it's worth celebrating what they've built, and it's worth celebrating what you're going to go on to build. I'm looking forward to it. It's a really, really exciting time. So with that, let's start with real places. I will share my screen so that hopefully you can present. Are you ready? Come on up.
Good evening and welcome to Real Places. I'm Shah, this is Nisha, this is Chris, and this is Magdalene. Unfortunately, Matthew wasn't able to make it today, but he was kind enough to demo our site, which we will show you later. Have you ever wandered around whilst on your holiday or on your way to work and wondered what momentous and cringy movie scenes were filmed on the patch of land you stood on? For those Star Wars movie buffs scouring the Tunisian desert in search of Tatooine, or for the wide-eyed tourist in central London who stumbles upon the multitude of filming locations? Your answer is here. Our group works hard and tirelessly to create an engaging information website where users can search and view a map of the world and pinpoint filming locations from a movie or from a TV show. Users are then able to discover information about the movie from the location they've searched. Next, we'll demo our site.
So this is our website. On the homepage, you'll find the trending movies as well as a search bar. So let's do a search. I'm going to try London and I'll find some suggestion here. I'm going to choose London, UK, click submit. And the website is giving me back all the movies that have been shot in London or have scenes that have been shot in London. And I'm going to choose The Crown. I'll end on the info page where I can read more information about the movie itself, get some suggestion as well, and interact with the nice map where I can also use Street View and explore that way. If it is the case that we don't have that much data about a movie, so let's try a new trending movie, we can just display that we don't have any filming location for this movie, but we still display other suggestions. Thank you.
that we had is a search by location, which used a Google dataset for autocomplete. Due to the complexity of that function, we were only able to get it to suggest cities and not the specific location itself. For example, if the user inputted Venice, they'd expect it to be Venice, Italy. However, what was happening is we were getting back Venice Beach in California. We were then able to fix that issue so that it was a lot more specific. And then we'll be able to search that specific location and get the top 20 movies to match it up.
So once you bring up the top 20 movies, you can click on one and it will bring up the movie information page. As you saw in the demo, at the bottom, it has all the related movies, and these are related by location. On the top left is information about the movie, so certain actors and actresses that were in it, the plot, etc. And then on the right, there is an interactive map.
So we chose to use Google Maps because it's user-friendly. Almost everyone's used it before, and it's got really good features like Street View that enhance the viewing of the filming locations. And a big part was we wanted to have the markers so that you wouldn't just see which city the film was shot in, but also where in the city. So to do this, we had a database with a list of locations attached to the movie's unique ID. So you go on the movies page, it accesses its list of locations, filters that by the search term. So on the picture, they've searched by Boston. It's only showing the Boston filming locations for this movie. And then they're converted into latitude and longitude and put on the map. So we had a few blockers with this project that we had to overcome. The biggest one was the limited available data from some of the data sets. So we could search by location, but it wasn't returning the specific locations that we needed for the markers. So to overcome this, we created our own database using a program. We wrote a program to go to the movie's specific location webpage on IMDb, read the locations, and then put it into the database attached to that movie's ID, which we could then access as and when we wanted for the website.
Another issue that we had was in regards to the styling. We had initially wanted to use a specific framework, which would have acted as a template for us. But unfortunately, that did not work out for us. So we kind of had to start from scratch. This was particularly difficult because it meant if you make one small change on one page, it could dramatically change the rest of the website. But we managed to get over this by leaving most of the styling to the end. So in that respect, most of our components were already done, and we just needed to figure out what goes where.
And another blocker that we had was with time. We spent the first few days actually planning out what we wanted to do to give us a good sense of direction and help us properly understand what elements we were going to use, which then led us to only start coding on the Wednesday of that first week. However, that did work in our favor as we were more confident and able to tackle any issues that did come up in the future.
We'll open the floor to any questions. Yes.
What were the specific blockers about using a CSS framework?
Repeat the question. Repeat the question.
Oh, okay. The specific blockers in using a specific framework. I think we initially were using React Native to do the project, and the framework that we wanted to use was Tailwind. But I think for some reason they were not working together. I'm not sure what the specific issue was. I think Chris works mainly on that part.
So because we wanted to use React Native initially to develop an app, by the end of it, we used another framework called Expo. So when we were importing libraries to help use for the styling, it would not allow us to do so. So we tried for a few hours to work on it, and it tried about 5-6 different libraries, but it didn't work. So we didn't want to waste any more time. So we reverted back to what we knew best, which was to style from the ground up. Thank you. Any more questions?
All righty.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to say that's real with 2 E's. It's a pun. You got to know this. All righty, fantastic. I'm afraid I won't be able to take questions from online. So if you have questions online, hopefully you'll be able to get in touch with us another way. Let's move on to our next team, Team Ecoliday.
So I'm going to start us off. This is our project Ecoliday, and it's here to help you find a greener way. So working on the project was Chris Hutchinson, Graham Patterson, Robbie Kirkbride, Thomas Solero, and me, Marina Papapetru. So climate change is a hot topic, but we want to make it much cooler. That's cooler in temperature. So I'm sure, like us, you're fed up of reading about celebrities and their CO2 emitting lifestyles, but we want you to know that the future of the planet is still in your hands. You can make eco-conscious decisions about how you travel through our web app. Ecoliday will tell you how much CO2 you will be emitting if you travel to a potential holiday destination. It will give you some context, so you know exactly what that means, and it will also give you some travel alternatives. And I'm going to pass you over to Robbie to show you through the app.
Thanks, Marina. So we'll start off here on our homepage. So now I can enter some destinations. This can be a city, it can be a street, it can be a postcode. We'll enter the number of passengers, that loads up the data there. You can see the search is saved at the top. Then the transport types are rail, petrol car, electric car, and train. So we got the total CO2 equivalents and per passenger, and then to add some meaning to this, we have some context. So that's Big Macs and T-shirts, how much CO2 to produce those, and carbon absorbed by trees in a year as well. Now, if we change to Nice, we can see that the numbers have changed, but we can't really make a good comparison of these searches without writing it down on pen and paper. So we can now sign up our account. So go to the login page, let's make an account. So there, if we put in an email address, we can see it's got to be a valid one, so we'll add that back in. Then if we add the password, this will be encrypted so you can sleep safely at night. Then if we put the wrong user in, for example, that doesn't exist in our database, so we'll put the right one in, we'll put the password in, and we're logged in now. So now we can do the same search. So we'll do London to Paris, submit that, loads up, and you can see now we have the option to save. So we'll go ahead and save that. We'll go for Nice as before. And we can go ahead and save that trip as well. And maybe you want to go a bit further afield. Let's look outside of France. So we'll go for New York. We'll submit that. And as you can see, currently the only way to get there is flying. That may change in the future. So it'll only give that data, and we'll save that trip. And now we can go to our trips page where you can see all those trips saved. So we've got New York at the top, Nice in the middle, and then Paris at the bottom. We're not going to fly because it's very bad for the environment, so we'll delete that one. Now we've got 2 trips, do a little comparison. You can see the sort of data's highlighted on hover. It's clear that Paris is much better, so let's keep that one. But maybe we don't actually want to go abroad at all, so we'll go back to the home page. We can do from London, and we're not sure where in the UK to go to, so we'll get a suggestion. So maybe Devon, Pembrokeshire, St Ives, that looks nice. Put that in, submit that, save that there, and log out, and that's that. And Thomas is going to take you through how we did it.
Right, so in building our web app, we built it in 2 parts. So there's what happens on the browser, which Robbie just showed us. So that's where the user interacts with the app and sees results. And then behind the scenes, we also built a web server. So the web browser communicates exclusively with our server, and then our server has 2 jobs. So the first job is to calculate the emissions for a given search, and it does that by using 3 external data sources. And then the other job of our server is to interact with our database, where we store user information, and we also store the trips that you save. And we did this using a test-driven approach. So we write tests first, and then we write code to fulfill those tests. And we ended up with over 100 tests, which covered 90% of our code. And I'll hand it over to Chris.
So how we worked as a team. So on the first day, we all came together with our ideas, and we kind of discussed how feasible these were. Once we kind of decided on one idea, we pulled together a list of all the features we wanted to include in our app. Then we adopted an agile approach with 2-day sprints, daily stand-up meetings, and end-of-day retros. These are really good for just kind of checking in, seeing how everyone's doing, making sure people weren't getting overwhelmed by the work and enjoying the process. We started with initial sprint, which was a very basic version of the app. And then each following sprint, we added additional components. This meant we always had a working solution. We wanted to make sure everybody got a really good learning experience. So we split up the work so everyone got exposure of all elements of the app, front and back. As a result, everyone was able to make a really big contribution to the solution as a whole and learn a lot along the way. We were very lucky because we actually were all on site for most of the time. So that made pairing really enjoyable. It was great tackling a problem together, especially when it was something more complex or something new. We also mixed up these pairs regularly, so everyone got the opportunity to work with everyone else so we could learn from each other. Hand you over to Graham.
Thanks, Chris. So I'm just going to take you through some of the challenges that we came up as a group. But before I get onto that, I just wanted to say how lucky we were to be in this group. Sort of from day one, all of our philosophies were the same, and we really worked well together. Even on things like styling that can be quite personal or subjective, we sort of all managed to get working in the same direction. So from our side, I think most of the challenges we faced were sort of more technical or learning challenges rather than us as a group. And actually, most of the solutions we came up with were sort of solved with that table tennis table back there in our lunch breaks. So in saying that, I think our first challenge we faced was finding reliable data sources. We wanted to make sure that it would meet the needs of our users, it would be reliable, it would be secure. So when dealing with stuff like carbon emissions, we wanted to make sure that was scientific and trusted information. The way we solved that was just by doing lots of thorough research and making sure that what we were passing on to you guys was actually accurate. Through that research, we were also able to find the best map locations, the best routes for each sort of mode of transport that we were using. I think Thomas mentioned testing. That was one of the challenges that we faced as well. We were getting quite a lot of errors when we were testing, and sometimes those messages weren't that visible, so it was hard to decipher them. So it was hard to sometimes know why we were going wrong and how to change that. But we approached that as a problem shared as a problem halved solution, and we made sure we used everyone in our team to be problem solvers. I think that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening, and we can take any questions that you might have about eHoliday.
It's really cool. But if you had like a bit more time, did you guys have an idea of like what the next feature or element that you want to do? Like what would be the next thing that you work on to?
So if I can start us off, if we had a bit more time, what would we have implemented? At the beginning, in our ideation session, we came up with a lot of ideas, like a lot of features that we might implement. And then obviously we had to decide what is plausible in 2 days, what is doable in the next 2 days. So there were quite a few we missed out. One that I would really like to implement is in the future, is if it could provide potential destinations between the to and from that the user provides to stop off that, so that it would make car travel or train travel a bit more doable. So instead of going straight to their preferred destination, they can stop off for a night somewhere in between. And then, it makes car travel a bit more interesting. Exactly. But
yeah, some of the other things that were available to us, we just didn't get time to do, was things that are important to people, like cost. How much is it going to cost you to fly somewhere, get a train? And then duration, is it feasible to drive 20 hours to, the other side of Eastern Europe? So I think those are two things that we could have implemented, but just ran out of time.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter Holiday. Absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. Alrighty. We have one more group who are ready to present for you tonight. So, last but not least, we have Get Home Safe. Or maybe you'll use this today. Got on the right page. Come on, where is it? We may have some technical difficulties here, but hopefully you know what to do. Alrighty.
Hey everyone, we're Team Get Home Safe. My name's Eliza, this is Bapta, this is Jude, this is Will, and this is Andy. So we built the Get Home Safe app for iOS and Android. So to tell you a little about it, a little bit about the app, the idea was formed from, you know, when you're walking home late at night and you're out coming home from a concert or a pub or a bar, anything like that. And we basically wanted people to feel safe and, you know, extra secure, because it can be a bit risky out there, especially, you know, when you're by yourself, be quite intimidating. So we thought we'd create this app that will allow you to get in touch with your emergency contacts, whether you're on iOS or Android. So we've got cross-platform integration. And essentially what you do is you set a route. So say I'm at Wembley Arena, I just want to set the route from my house. I can then walk from Wembley Arena to my house. I can start a timer. And if I don't make it in time, Will get a notification saying that I didn't make it home safe. I can also hit a button that says that I did get home safe. And to talk to you a little more and show you how that works, Will, I'll pass it through to you.
All right, quick note. When I'm typing the password, nothing's on the screen. It's just the screen recording software blanks out the password for like security reasons.
App up and running. Here's the splash screen. Our login and sign up pages both will show different types of error messages below. Now let's get logged in. On the home page, you will see the map. Let's type in a place we want to walk to. We can then click the start button to begin the timer. We can also pause and unpause. Let's say something bad happens on this walk. You can click the SOS button and your emergency contacts will be notified. You can also click this button to call 999 directly from the app. Let's start another journey. So if you make it home safe while the timer's still running, you can click the home button. And again, your emergency contacts will be notified that you got home safe and sound. And if none of those buttons are clicked and the timer runs out, let's see what happens. So in that case, you'll get a push notification telling you have 1 minute to click the home safe button, and if not, your emergency contacts will be notified that you didn't get home safe. So now onto the notifications. You'll see as Thomas hit SOS, and if I refresh, that came in a few seconds ago. So we can click on this, we can see their last location. We also call them or call 999. We can zoom in, zoom out as if it's a normal map. We can also delete notifications onto emergency contacts. We can add a contact by searching for their email. And we can delete emergency contacts. Now to the settings. We have various settings for walking speed. All this will do, this will change the outputted time in minutes and the length that the journey should take. So if you're a slow walker, we'll give you longer to take longer to get home. You also change your password, log out, and delete your account. And that is our app.
Cool, thank you. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll pass over to Jude to talk a little bit more about the technical side of things. So we built the app using the MERN stack, but instead of React.js, we use React Native, so it can be used on like an Android and iOS device and be downloaded eventually. We use the Google Maps API to get all the information about how long it should take to get somewhere, how far away something was, and the best route that they suggest for walking. And then there was loads of really useful packages for React Native. So the ones for the map we put on the bottom left of the screen there. And there's also one to get the user's live location. And then also the autocomplete for the Google search. And then on the bottom right of the screen, we've just put the packages we use for the user experience. So someone stays logged in once they're logged in, they don't have to log in every time they use it. And so the push notifications work for the emergency contacts and stuff like that. I'm going to give you over to Andy now, who's going to talk through some of the challenges that we faced.
Yeah, so of course we wanted to build a mobile app, but none of us had ever done this before. And in order to do this, we decided to use React Native because we were already somewhat familiar with the MERN stack. But of course, given that we hadn't made a mobile app before, we'd never used this technology. So first, we kind of took a little bit of time to familiarize ourselves with it, watch some YouTube tutorials, read through some of the React Native official docs. And in addition to this, the MERN stack that we had done previously began with a kind of foundation of a code base. So this one was started completely from scratch. So that added a bit more complexity to the project. And last of all, the other main projects that we've done on the course so far have been building clones of existing websites such as Facebook, Twitter, and Airbnb. So this is our first time building an app from the ground up in terms of conceiving the idea, deciding the kind of functionality that we wanted to implement, and also how we wanted to style it. So all in all, we had some pretty big challenges to overcome. And now I'll pass you on to Bhakta to talk to you about how we worked as a team.
As a team, we worked using the agile process. So the Trello board was every day, first thing to touch. So we moved tickets from the beginning to the end, and that's how we kick off our day on the daily stand-up, assign the work, and then know what we are going to do on that day. Obviously, this project was on 4 sprints. So at the end of each sprint, we use retros and to evaluate and, and just basically sometimes celebrate the success and obviously, know where we are and what we need to do. And then one more thing is the team atmosphere and vibe and, working all together. Obviously, we didn't have the chance to work sometimes, as a team all together, but this was a big chance for us. So we used that to work on the different pairs, on the different corners and areas in the app. So we learned we learned about each other, and we learned the stack, the tech, and that what made us, now here coming, to you presenting this work, and I hope you enjoyed. So get home safe, and this is our team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yeah.
What was the main difference developing a mobile app compared to a web app?
It doesn't use.
Well, just for the audience at home, so in terms of the big differences between building a mobile app versus a web app,
it doesn't use like HTML or JS, like any of those kind of things. So there's like a React Native version of that. So like you wouldn't use a div, you'd use something else. So it was almost more of like a translation, at least for like the more basic things like the layouts like that.
And also another big thing was the navigation. So rather than kind of being able to navigate between different routes or pages, we had to navigate between different screens or like tabs on our nav bar. So that took a bit of time to get used to as well. But the official docs are super helpful with that.
All right. Thank you once again. Get home safe. And thank you all of our teams today. I'm going to come and stand in front of the laptop so that people can hear me clearly on the Zoom. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Thank you everyone for coming. Let's make a little bit of noise one more time for everyone who's presented today, online and here. Let's go for it. All right. And with that, thank you all so much for joining. For those of you in the space, of course, we've got drinks, we've got a bit of food, we've got a bit of time to network, to party, to chat, and to relax. So, thank you all ever so much. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to close this out. And yeah, have fun. And I'll see some of you around. All right.